So at this point in time, your choices to make a screwdriver are limited. You're going to do it by hand some way. You're going to try to hold it and keep it accurate. And you don't want to be ruining screws in the process. The ways to make them require a great deal of skill in order to make it accurate. If a person's really good, they might have 3 to 4 thousandths, probably closer to 5 or 6 thousandths difference in each side of the blade, which is going to result in a ragged up screw. That's where this machine comes in, the Screwsaver. So the genesis of this Screwsaver was this screw on this gun that I was going to restore. French firearm of circa 1906, 1907. And we have somebody here that made a real mess of a screw. And so I needed to make screwdrivers to fit it. This screwdriver was pretty close. I might have been able to get it out with ragging it up. This screw is much wider than the screwdriver blade, and so I don't have enough torque to get the screw out. But I had to just try it a little bit, but now I decided, no, we're not going to do that. So let's do it a different way. Let's take and find out how big that screw slot really and truly is. So we can use a feeler gauge to come over here and test our screw slots. That one's pretty sloppy. This is a little bit better. This one is pretty good. And this one is pretty tight. So I'm going to go with a 19 thousandths thick screwdriver blade. That'll give us a nice fit into the screw and avoid ragging it up. So the first thing we do is we put this into the setup cradle. This is called a chuck sleeve, and this is adjustable so you can move it in or out. That can be in further instructions. We can put this in. We slide the screwdriver blade in. We line it up in the V-groove. We tighten up our chuck. Now our blade is oriented horizontally to be parallel with the cutter. When we're first starting out with this, we want to turn the machine on. We want to have the holder up above the sleeve and the screwdriver above the cutter. And then we want to lower it down until it just starts to cut. We want to turn it over, and we want to make sure that we're cutting on both sides. And then we can set the 0 on the dial, and then we can determine how thick the blade is, and we can then find out how much we have to take off of it. So when we're raising or lowering this, understand that these are 1/1000ths of an inch marks, so every thousandths of an inch you go down, we'll cut off 1/1000th and another thousandths. So it's 2 thousandths total cut. We're going to raise it up to where we're sure we're clear of the cutter. We're going to turn it on. And now we'll go in and we'll start lowering it down. And I'm not ready to take any measurements yet because we're just cleaning up the rough part of the cut. This is a double cut carbide burr. Works very well. You don't even need to cool it because it acts like a cooling fan, like a squirrel cage fan. For my ball, we've still got more to go. This won't burn your steel, nor will it burn your fingers. So now we're ready to start getting serious about our grinding, so I'll turn the machine off, and I'm going to measure where my cut's at. So right now I'm at 43 thousandths of an inch wide on the blade. So I'm going to need to cut off 43 minus 20. So I got 24 thousandths that I'll cut off. 19 minus from 43. I got 20 thousandths to cut off. So I need to go down 10 thousandths of an inch. So I'm going to set my dial to 0. You can use a digital dial if you wish to, but I prefer these, old school. So because the dial is set up in 1/1000ths increments, and I need to cut off 20 thousandths, that means that I'm only going to go down 10 thousandths total depth of cut. So I'm going to start in here and we want to rotate it each time so we can keep the screwdriver concentric to the center of the shaft. Let's see how far we've gone here. We're down to 33 thousandths. So 33, so we got 14 thousandths. We got 7 more thousandths to go down. I'm going to take off about 5 thousandths on this cut. And I'm holding down on the top of this and rotating it all to take all the slop out of any movement that might be in the mechanism over here between the feed cradle and the chuck sleeve. As you can see, it stays cool. Yeah, there we go. We're done. And we can check the width of the blade. Is it going to be too wide for the screw? It is. So now I'm going to raise this back up in the air and I'm going to trim it down to width. So we hold it vertically this time. And go in and kiss it. There we go. Not all screwdriver blades are straight, so I like to. There we go. Okay, so when you're done grinding, if you wish, you can take a little stone and knock any burrs off the edges to keep it from scratching or damaging a finish. It depends upon how picky you are. That's not an essential, that's just an extra. So let's see if this fits our gun screw. There we go. We've got a perfect fitting screwdriver so that we can avoid damage to screws like somebody else has done on this gun. So now we have a stripped out hex drive screw, commonly called an Allen screw or an Allen wrench that we use to take them out. The seat is very, very shallow. They're difficult to drill out without ruining something. So these are stripped out. So we want to make a hex driver. So we're going to use a cheap throwaway hex bit. We're going to set it into our setup cradle also here. And we will make us an oversized hex driver bit. We'll set it up the same way as we did the screwdriver. Okay, we've set this up in here. We're going to run this in and make sure we're not touching our cutter. We're good. Now on this, we have extra slots over here to allow us to do this. So I'm going to go down and kiss this. Okay, now we're cutting. Let's check it on the other side. This is a 3/32 Allen wrench, which is about 90 thousandths. So off this little guy, we need to cut off, I'm using a little bit oversized so we can get a tight fit. I'm going to cut off about 8 thousandths on each side, on each surface. So I'm going to set my grinder down. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, 5, and 6 sides have now been cut. So I'm going to measure it across the flats. I think we're in good shape. I'll turn the machine off. I'm going to take the bit out and let's see what we got. Now we can take that stripped out screw out. We also sometimes have some very small screws that require a smaller chuck holding mechanism than this can provide. We can use ER collets. These are ER16 collets. And so if we wanted to make a screwdriver to, say, 1 millimeter wide to get into for a watch screw, we can do that. We load this up in the chuck, and we do it the same way that we do it with the keyless chuck. We put it in, and there's actually another groove. This is a 2-sided V-block, so we can put the little side in here for tiny screws, tiny screwdrivers. So that we do it the same way. we snug it up. And with an ER collet, it tends to draw back the blade, so you push it out a little bit further extra. There we go. And now we can snug it up. You don't want to get tight and real tight on it because it puts all the pressure on the pins over there in the setup cradle. Okay, so that looks like we're pretty good. And then we can tighten it up out here. Just got to be aware of the drawback on these ER collets. This one is a pretty big screwdriver. It's probably close to 1.5 mil, maybe 1.75 mil, somewhere south of 1/16 of an inch. You can also change the collets out in here, various sizes. And you can use a larger one, and you can do square screwdrivers then. You can grind them in here. And so you can make a perfect fitting screwdriver for every screw, and it's that easy. So I'm Mark Eberlein, Screwsaver.com, and thank you very much for watching this video.